Before we start, a direct request for you who follow everything that happens with the team. Drop a like now and subscribe. This helps a lot so that more fans receive these updates and stay on top of everything that can change the franchise's future. With that done, let's get into the subject because it's big and a lot of serious things are happening at the same time. The situation has taken on a different dimension in the last few hours. What previously seemed like just backstage whispers has turned into concrete conversations. The trade landscape involving the team has gained strength, and some very heavy names have come onto the radar. We are not talking about empty speculation, but about moves being evaluated internally, phone calls, inquiries, and calculations about the impact on the current roster and on the team's competitive ceiling for this season. And at the center of all this, a name appears that changes any conversation. A dominant interior star who, if available, alters the balance of power in the West. There are consistent reports that the team is seriously studying the possibility of building an offer to pull this star out of his current team. It is not something simple, and no one around the league believes that a trade like this is resolved with just a few assets. It would involve picks, young players with value, big contracts to match salaries, and possibly the participation of more than one franchise to make the deal viable. Even so, the talks have advanced enough for executives and people close to the process to confirm the possibility exists and is on the table. This potential move heats up even more because the situation of the player in question is not simple. His recent history of physical issues resurfaced in the special Christmas game when he left the court feeling discomfort in the adductor area. On top of that, there is a decisive sporting backdrop. His current team, even with some positive stretches throughout the season, still faces structural difficulties to compete with the main contenders in the conference. Adding to that the fact that their control over future draft picks is increasingly limited, a clear fork opens between insisting on the current project or starting a rebuild with a big return in assets. On the side of the interested team, the rate is straightforward. The window with the main star of the roster is not eternal. Every season counts and every evaluation mistake is costly. The franchise has oscillated, searched for an identity, found good moments and also stumbles. But the perception is that without a big move, there may not be enough real power to battle the teams that currently set the pace in the conference. That is why the idea of adding a major interior presence who protects the rim, punishes in the paint, and instantly raises the defensive level has come to be treated with a different degree of seriousness. It is not just about plugging in a name. The tactical impact would be enormous. We are talking about a player capable of anchoring an entire defense by himself, protecting the rim, switching on to perimeter assignments and still producing offensively with an average above 20 points, over 10 rebounds per game, and direct influence on blocks and steals. He can finish near the basket, work in the mid-range, punish mismatches, and be a reference in decisive moments. Even though he is no longer the three-point shooter he once showed he could be in previous years, the total package still places him among the great talents in the league. The problem is the cost. Behind the scenes, rumors indicate that building a package would revolve around an important piece of the current roster, someone established, with gigantic impact on both ends of the floor. The mere mention of this possibility already divides opinions among fans. Some see the trade as a mandatory step to get back to contending for a title immediately, and others consider it unthinkable to give up one of the team's technical and emotional leaders, especially for a player with an injury history. In this scenario, another essential component comes in, the situation of the young players on the roster, especially one explosive athletic player who has won over the fan base but is clearly in a moment of dissatisfaction with his role. Meetings with the coaching staff have taken place, requests for more prominence have been made, and the feeling behind the scenes is that his presence after the trade deadline is unlikely. This, of course, increases the strategic value of this player in trade packages, even though everyone knows that he wants a new environment. This combination of factors creates a boiling pot. A frustrated veteran who has to face heavier centers daily, another star who prefers to play as a power forward rather than a traditional five, a young player unhappy with his minutes on the court, and a roster that seems to be asking for a structural adjustment. All of this pushes the front office to evaluate bold scenarios. It is no longer about small corrections, but about moves that redefine hierarchy and playing style. There is also the emotional component. Fans do not forget that this franchise built a dynasty based on chemistry, ball movement, and a very unique identity. Any trade of this magnitude shakes that. At the same time, the competitive clock is ticking. Direct rivals are strengthening themselves, and the Western Conference does not forgive hesitation. Between preserving bonds and building the best possible roster around the legendary point guard who has led the team for over a decade, the balance starts to tilt toward tough decisions. The technical fit of this potential star with the current pieces also generates heated debate. Alongside the main defender and emotional leader of the roster, there would be questions about spacing, since neither of them currently represents a real threat from the three-point line. On the other hand, the defensive gain would be gigantic, with the possibility of forming a wall in the paint, varying lineups, exploring huge lineups, and suffocating opposing offenses. The coach is known for experimenting, and the idea of using the new big name more as a help defender alongside the veteran could extend his health and reduce physical wear. Offensively, the team would have to reinvent part of its identity. Less natural spacing means more off-ball cuts, more post play, more attacks to the rim, and less dependence on outside shooting in certain lineups. In decisive moments, smaller lineups would still be possible, but the presence of this dominant interior piece would open the possibility of closing games with elite rim protection, something that has been missing in some matches this season. At the same time, keeping or not another versatile star on the roster becomes a key point. There are clear indications that the front office would try to preserve this player in any trade scenario, using multiple teams to spread out contracts and add picks. If they manage to do that, a core formed by the iconic point guard, this impactful wing and the coveted interior star would instantly place the team back into the main conversation around the league. The problem is making the numbers work and convincing other franchises to join the puzzle. On the opposite side, there is the risk. Trading for a player of this caliber also means taking on his physical question marks. Every tweak, every discomfort, every missed game creates tension. The title upside goes up, but the dependency on the roster's health does too. The question echoing in the corridors is simple and brutal. Is it worth going all in now, even with uncertainties? Or is it better to preserve assets and accept a gradual rebuild around the main idol, who is already a veteran? In the middle of all this, the schedule weighs in. Some opponents who seemed unstoppable have stumbled, the conference has shown weaknesses, and suddenly the idea of fighting at the top does not sound so far-fetched. When you see a young giant of the league struggling against dominant interior players, the conviction grows that the answer may lie precisely in adding someone capable of imposing physical and technical respect in the paint, and that explains why the talks have not cooled down. There are those who say that this team's favoritism to be the star's next destination is no accident. The fit with the historic point guard, the winning culture, the appeal of immediately competing for a title, and the desire of some players to play in more comfortable positions create a tempting scenario. At the same time, public pressure does not help. Every report, every leak, every insider conversation raises the temperature and reduces the front office's margin for error. What is clear is that very little will remain the same. With young players wanting more space, veterans tired of roles they do not want, and a market open to heavy negotiations, the team finds itself at a rare crossroads. Either it doubles down and tries something gigantic, or it accepts that the natural cycle is changing and repositions the roster for the future. At this point, the fans are doing their part. They argue, demand, dream, and fear at the same time. Some are thrilled by the idea of a trio bringing together the legendary point guard, the wing who decides big games, and the dominant interior. Others prefer to keep the current core and not take the risk. Only one thing is certain: big decisions are approaching, and their impact will be felt for years. The script of this story is still far from over, and new chapters are being written as you read this. With every backstage update, every minor injury, Every expression of dissatisfaction from a player, everything shifts and the balance tilts to a different side. That is exactly why following this closely is essential. When we look deeper into this scenario, we realize it is not just about an isolated trade, but about what it means within an entire cycle. Every great franchise reaches a point where it needs to decide whether to protect the past or risk everything for the immediate future. Here, the feeling is that the balance has become unsustainable. The current pieces show quality, but also clear limits. That is why the idea of moving the entire board has gained strength among the decision-makers. Behind the scenes, something important is revealed. No one wants to repeat the mistake of holding on to assets for too long until they lose value. Picks that once were highly valued, young players who once drew huge interest from other teams, and opportunities that slipped away have left harsh lessons. Now, this learning pushes the front office to act more aggressively, even knowing that every step carries high risk and direct consequences for the team's identity. The case of the explosive young wing is emblematic. He has talent, elite physical tools, flashes of great potential, and solid numbers, but the relationship with his on-court role has worn down. Meetings with the coaching staff, behind-the-scenes comments, and even body language in recent games indicate a player who believes he can deliver much more than his current role allows. When this combination appears, the ending in this league is usually predictable: a change of scenery and a trade for assets that fit better with the main project. At the same time, the veteran responsible for a large part of the roster's defensive energy feels the toll of facing stronger, heavier opponents every night. He has always been a decisive emotional factor, but the job of guarding dominant centers night after night wears him down physically and mentally. This further fuels the need to bring in an interior presence who can absorb that role and return this veteran to his zone of greatest impact as a versatile defender and key piece in clutch moments. It is at this point that the coveted star comes in as the perfect piece in theory. He protects the rim like few others, alters shots just with his presence, secures rebounds, and still produces at a high level offensively. Even with questions about his long-range shooting, his real efficiency shows up near the basket and in the mid-range. With him, the team gains a physical dimension it has not had for a long time, and finally has an answer for dominant players who have emerged in the conference. However, there is no way to ignore the history of absences. The recent episode in the special Christmas game reignited the debates about his durability. He left the court with pain in the adductor area and missed subsequent commitments, bringing back ghosts from previous seasons. The dilemma becomes even more intense. Bet on unquestionable talent despite the physical risks, or look for more conservative solutions that might not raise the competitive ceiling to the desired level. The executives know that, to make this deal happen, creativity will be necessary. Big contracts need to match. Additional assets will be demanded, and a trade of this size is rarely done between just two teams. The greater probability involves multiple franchises, spreading contracts, picks, and young players in a way that all sides feel they have gained something meaningful. It is precisely this complexity that makes the rumors grow gradually, with pieces being quietly tested on the market. The decision also goes through the emotional impact in the locker room. Any big move shakes hierarchies, roles, and egos. Players who are references today may have to share the spotlight, while promising young talents may be sent to other projects. Keeping internal cohesion after a trade of this magnitude is just as important as getting the names right in the transaction. The coaching staff and front office know that success depends not only on tactical fit, but on immediate collective buy-in. The coach, known for seeking different lineups, would see his set of possibilities expand absurdly. Huge lineups with 3 big players on the court at the same time, defenders capable of switching onto almost every position, and still the option to close games with smaller, lethal offensive lineups would all become real alternatives. Tactical flexibility is one of the biggest attractions of this possible arrival, especially in playoff series where fine adjustments decide fates. On offense, the dynamic would change. More inside play, more low-post actions, more off-ball cuts and constant reads. The legendary point guard with his unique ability to create from the perimeter, would have more room to operate since defenses would have to deal with the constant threat in the paint. At the same time, the clutch wing who often carries the offense in critical moments would gain a partner who draws double teams and opens up driving lanes. The fans see all this and feel that something big is coming. It is no coincidence that analysts are pointing to this team as one of the favorite destinations for the coveted star. There is structure, a winning culture, an established idol who attracts talent and, above all, urgency. No one wants to waste the last years of high performance from this historic player with mediocre campaigns and early playoff exits. On the side of the team that currently holds the Stars' rights, the reflection is deep. Staying in the middle of the standings, with no real title chances and little control over the future of the draft, may be the worst of both worlds. Trading now, while his value is still gigantic, securing promising young players and picks, and starting a new cycle is a real option. Everything depends on how the next few weeks play out, the results on the court, and how the star himself feels about the project. It is important to remember that the conference is as open as it has been in a long time. Teams once seen as unbeatable have shown flaws, giants have slipped, and no one seems unreachable. This encourages bold moves. A single, well-executed trade can completely reposition a franchise from secondary contender to absolute frontrunner. And it is precisely this perception that fuels the fire of all these conversations. The environment, therefore, is charged. Every game, every injury, every negative or positive stretch changes the bar for decisions. Executives talk, agents probe, players read between the lines, and the entire league watches. When a clear favorite emerges to be a star's next destination, it is a sign that real negotiations already exist, even if nothing has been made public officially. If this trade really happens, the impact will be immediate. The trio formed by the legendary point guard, the clutch wing, and the dominant big man would put the team on a different level. The defense would gain a new identity, the offense would have multiple ways to score, and the pressure on opponents would rise drastically. It would be a direct message to the entire league. The window has not closed. It has been forced back open. If nothing happens, there will also be consequences. Unhappy young players are unlikely to stay. Veterans frustrated with uncomfortable roles will seek answers, and the pressure for results will increase. In either scenario, standing still is no longer a viable option. The franchise's immediate future inevitably depends on strong decisions. What we can say now is that the talks are no longer just vague rumors. There is substance, there is real interest, there are scenarios drawn up, and there is a desire to at least explore the possibility to the limit. And, in the meantime, the fan base follows every detail with a racing heart, imagining what it would be like to see this star wear new colors and completely change the course of the season. If you have made it this far, it is because you live all of this intensely. So, to make sure you do not miss any updates on this trade saga, drop a like and subscribe now. This helps the content reach more people and make sure you are always on top of the next chapter of this story, which is still far from over. Sotto has been drawing attention for his talent and the potential to become a dominant center in the league. Standing at 7'3", he's not only a rim protector but also a player who has greatly improved offensively. The question is, would he fit into the Warriors system? We know that adapting to the NBA is not easy, especially for a player coming from an international background, but Kai has already shown that he faces challenges head-on. Since beginning his professional basketball career, he has displayed an impressive learning curve and a growth mindset that could make all the difference. The Warriors always prioritize versatile players who know how to move well without the ball and contribute on both ends of the court. And that's where Sotto could shine. He's not just a traditional center who protects the paint, but also a mobile and intelligent player capable of helping with offensive plays. The big question now is, who will give Sotto this chance? The Warriors could benefit from a young and promising center, but other teams may also be eyeing him. What's certain is that he has all the potential to grow in the NBA, as long as he gets the right opportunity. Sotto's future is promising, but he still needs to find the team and system that best suit his style. If the Warriors decide to give him a chance, it could not only strengthen the roster, but also bring a new dynamic to Golden State's front court. After all, with the Warriors' winning mentality, the sky is the limit for any young talent. So, did you like the video? Don't waste any time and hit the like button because it helps a lot with spreading the word. If you have anything to add or want to share your opinion, leave a comment. We love hearing what you think. And of course, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates about our team. See you next time, everyone. Let's go together towards another great season.